Rise and shine. It's a week. We have a lot to get into. And you know what? If you felt like you got hit by a bus because of daylight savings time this weekend, I know I did. It's that early alarm on Sunday. Oh, buddy. I don't like springing forward. But if you're the same way and you felt like you got hit by a bus because of daylight savings time, you know exactly what Don Staley and the Gamecocks felt in the first 5 minutes of yesterday's SEC championship game.
Yeah. Hit them before they even knew it. Maybe they were on daylight saving time.
Possible.
Is that what happened? You think they showed up? They was like, oh, the game's starting now?
Oh, wait. Game's been going on for an hour or whatever. What's going on? I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. One famous boxer, Mike Tyson, a man of many interesting quotes. Maybe his most true is that everybody's got a game plan until you get hit in the mouth. Mm-hmm. And I think yesterday, from opening tip-off till the first timeout that Don Staley took, which resulted in Texas being up 14-0. This is basketball, by the way. It wasn't like they scored 2 early touchdowns. They had to get a lot of baskets to get to that 14-point mark. You found out what getting hit in the mouth early looks like, and they just never recovered.
Yeah, they couldn't. Well, the thing is, I mean, a lot of my sports truisms were at play during this game, right? The first thing, it sounds obvious, but the game starts at the beginning. Right? So
step one,
which is kind of part of my overall thesis, is that all points count anytime. So it doesn't really matter when you score the points. It just matters how many points you score. If you score the first 14, that is a good thing. Right?
That means you're ahead of schedule.
Right. That means you're ahead of schedule. You're probably going to get to these points anyway, but if we can get them now, it's usually a good thing. And so that was one of my first things, like, okay, uh-oh. Oh no. And I think like around, because what's your meter? 6-0 doesn't mean anything.
No. Yeah, you're 2 3-pointers away from tying it up.
8-0, you still, what is it, the double digits? Is it the exceeding double digits? What is it when you start to say, okay, what's going on here?
I think to me it was 10-0 when I was like, okay. Because also it's how it got to 10-0. Mm-hmm. We got to a point early in that first quarter where South Carolina had 1 shot attempt. Texas had 10 points. They had 5 turnovers, resulting in 10 Texas points. Mm-hmm. And they put a couple more up on the board to make it 14. And that's when I'm like, oh, you might be in a little bit of trouble. But I was like, if you know, throughout the game, I kind of have like these mental benchmarks for teams to get whenever you get down early, because it seems daunting when you get down 14 to start the game, and it looks on the scoreboard like that's a lot to overcome. But if you break it up in increments, saying, okay, it's 14-0 right now. If we can get it to 10 at the end of the first quarter, mm-hmm. If we just win by 4 in the second quarter, it's a 6-point game at halftime. You win by 3 each quarter, you're going to overtime, right? If you break it up like that, it doesn't seem as daunting. So the entire time I'm like, okay, well, if you get it to 9 at the end of this quarter, you have a chance. Or if you get it to, when they got it to 9, I said, okay, if you can steal one more possession, get to 7 at halftime, then you survived maybe the worst half that you played, all season long. And you'll have a chance in the second half if you make some adjustments. But throughout the game, those mental benchmarks that I gave the team, they never reached, because whenever they would score, it felt like every single time Texas had some sort of answer.
That was my biggest takeaway from this game, is that you don't want to do yourself the disservice of getting down by that much. But South Carolina has they can start to turn it on at some point, especially being in Greenville. The crowd's starting to get into it. And I marked it down. It was 31-22. Right?
They got it down to 9.
So we're right outside of here. We got it to 9. We had scored 2 buckets in a row. And this was when it's like, okay, we're going to get this thing back together.
Crowd was back into it.
Crowd's back into it, and then Texas scores 5 in a row, a 2-pointer and a 3-pointer. And I was like, oh, maybe we're not going to be able to get over this hump. And then that happened one more time when we got it in the single digits, and then Texas got the lead back up to it. And this was like, that was in the second quarter, and then it was early in the third quarter. And I was like, I don't think Texas is going to let this one go.
No, they were determined not to let it go.
And they played a great game.
Oh, I mean, what it felt like watching the first quarter of that game was like watching a team take a test in which somebody the night before gave them all the answers. Like they jumped ahead of every single cut. They top blocked Tessa Johnson, which is usually what happens. Like that's when a defender is almost face guarding a 3-point shooter, And instead of them going around and getting like a triple handoff for a 3, you're jumping out to where you're forcing them to cut back door. And then whenever Texas would cut back door, they're matching it, right? Like it's almost like they knew where the cuts were going to happen every single time.
Well, when you take a test 5 times in the last 365 days, calendar-wise, you might know a few of the answers. You might be like, oh, okay, I've done this before.
Yeah, like that was definitely a product of playing them 5 times, and South Carolina's also played them 5 times.
That's correct.
And they just looked not as prepared for it as Texas. They looked not as fresh as Texas. Did it help that Texas the night before beat Ole Miss like a drum in the second half and got to cruise a little bit, whereas South Carolina was in a dogfight for all 4 quarters against LSU? Maybe. But also, I always believe that in those situations, too, the team that plays the night game has an inherent disadvantage because they're playing less than 24 hours later. Whereas the game yesterday, it's a little less than 24 hours for South Carolina because that game tipped off at 4:30, whereas yesterday's game was at 3. But it's less time for a team like Texas, right? Like, we're talking about a big difference in that turnaround. So I find that to be equally as much of a disadvantage as maybe the scenario that played out. But Texas looked fresher. They looked more prepared to start the game. And by the time South Carolina got that wake-up call, the game was pretty even after that. Unfortunately, in a game like that where those 2 teams are so even, you can't give up a 14-0 run at any point of the game. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lesson they learned yesterday.
Yeah, and again, it's all building, moving forward. Staying with this game before we get to even the bigger picture. It was very interesting to see the different ways that South Carolina has scored all year. Mm-hmm. They kept going to them, and they all kept coming up kind of empty, right?
Yeah.
Joyce has to make her bunnies. I mean, that's a prescription we've kind of seen all year. Mm-hmm. Going forward, she has to make those. Obviously, she has all of the offensive talent in the world.
Yeah, certainly.
She makes a lot of difficult shots, but she has to make the bunnies, and I think that's something. And it's not even about how many points. It's a couple of times where they missed 2 or 3 very in the paint layup type of shots that allowed the lead to extend, where it might have even blunted the lead, or it might have maybe just slowed down Texas. And by missing those shots, Texas gets on the run. They score. Instead of being down, it's like a 4-point swing instead of it just being a 2-point swing.
Yeah, and it's the shot quality, too. Like, when you miss the bunny, you miss an easy shot. And then Texas would go down the other end and hit some hard shots. To Texas's credit, the defense is the thing that really blew me away in that first quarter, but they hit some tough shots in that game. Like, Madison Booker is one of the best tough shot makers in college basketball.
Can I make a confession?
Absolutely.
I really like watching her play basketball.
I'm telling you, dude. She has a Durant-like effortless when she scores.
Her game is so smooth. She comes around, she elevates. Unfortunately, I have to watch it against my team for the last 5 times, but I really enjoy watching her play.
Yeah, and the only, I guess, Gamecock defender that I know that's completely shut her down was Bree Hall, and Bree had some length well enough to be able to contest a lot of those shots. What makes Booker so good, dude, is that release point is so high. She gets so high on that jump, too, that it's hard to block her shot at any point on the floor. And she's one of those scorers, too, dude, where you can be watching about 7 or 8 minutes of the game, and you're like, wow, I haven't seen much of Madison Booker. You look at the score sheet. Oh, well, she's already got 15 points. Mm-hmm. How? I don't remember a lot of those. Like, it is an effortless ability to score. And I think one thing that Texas did, too, not many times. How many times have we gone through the numbers of what South Carolina does in terms of getting shots at the rim? We'll talk about, the percentage that they make at the rim and how important that is to them winning games. But every time we do this, we're saying, hey, they were, 21 of 28 at the basket, or they were 24 of 30. And, they're constantly getting to that 30 mark, right? To that 28 to 30 shots at the rim per game. You want to guess how many shots at the rim they got yesterday? 19. Texas not only made it harder for them to make shots at the rim and shoot a lower percentage than they normally do, but they discouraged shots at the rim during that game.
What's their percentage of that 19?
They hit 11. So they left 8 points off the board in shots at the rim. And then at the free throw line, too, they missed 11 free throws. They were hovering 50%.
Which is not typical.
Yeah.
That's not typical. So you have a combination of things. One team's playing, I wouldn't even say Texas played out of their mind. They just they just got the bucket when they needed it. They just played a really tough game because it is, yes, you want to get a 14-point lead, but it's definitely difficult to play when the dog is chasing you.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's easier to chase the dog than the dog to chase you the whole time. And so much props and kudos to them for being able to hold that lead and withstand some of the runs when we were trying to make a comeback. They held off all the time. That was a very solid win for them.
And especially, too, it's hard to hold off, a team like South Carolina when it comes to like them making a run and you having to answer to it. It's even harder when you're doing it in that environment, too, because it wasn't like the crowd, when it got down 14-0, stopped going nuts. It got loud in there when South Carolina at one point like cut it to 15, right? Or, I think Joyce blocked a shot when they were down 12, and the place is going bonkers.
Yeah, because the fans know that's the faith that they have in this team is like, oh, this is, okay, here we go.
Yep.
It's about to start now, and I felt that a couple of times. Like I said, at 31-22, we got it. 9, all right, here it is. And then Texas comes down and they score 5, and it's like, man, all right, maybe not. Maybe not this time. Next time. And you kept wanting it to happen, and to Texas's credit, they kept closing the door.
Yeah, and that's what elite teams do. And I think South Carolina and Texas are both elite basketball teams. And again, that's why it's so problematic to spot an elite basketball team 14 points to start the game. And had somebody text or tweet me yesterday too, asking if this is like makes me worried about the NCAA tournament. I don't necessarily think so. I think it is a bad day. As Matt Dowell put it on Twitter from Watch Fox. Bad day at the office.
Yeah.
And I don't think any team's going to look at that and see what they did with pressing full court and say, oh, we can do that because guess what? No team has a Rory Harmon.
She's fun too.
She will stick on you like white on rice for 94 feet. And I get exhausted watching it. I get exhausted watching her play defense because I would love for her to have a GPS tracker on her and see how many like miles, I guess, she runs throughout the course of a game. Because she was, full court the entire game. Mm-hmm. There was no walking the ball. There was no easy inbound pass, too. That's another thing, too. When you play that good defensively and you're that good at, cutting off teams' off-ball movers and you're that good at pressing full court and just making it hard to inbound the ball, that's exhausting. So by the time you got to the second half, if you were already a little spent from the night before, you're going to be a lot more spent trying to play in that fourth quarter when Texas is still fresh, because I will say one of their superpowers is they're definitely well-conditioned. Mm-hmm. And that helped out a lot yesterday. And it was, again, 2 elite teams. I think the moral of the story, just don't spot them 14 points at any point in the game, whether it's at the very beginning or at the very end. It will come back to bite you. But coming up next here, though, on the early game, we'll look ahead at the NCAA tournament. Gamecocks get an entire week to rest and recuperate. But is it still championship or bust? We know they're going to be a 1 seed. But are they going to get the 4th 1 seed? And how much does that matter? We'll discuss that next.
Press here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. If your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you, and they will take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home, you're looking to increase the value of your home, Absolute Glass can help you with that too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at absoluteglassinc.com. That's online at absoluteglassinc.com.
And starting off your Monday morning, sort of Monday-ish, we do have a report of an accident Decker Boulevard at O'Neill Court. Also, Gervais Street, right at Bull Street, there's an accident in progress there. And Summit Parkway at Clemson Road. So be careful early this morning. We do have a little bit of patchy, dense fog out there. It's going to be clearing, 82 for the high today, 85 with possibly a couple morning showers tomorrow. And then partly cloudy, could be 87 on Wednesday before then things cool off just a little bit. So right now, a little bit of patchy dense fog, as I mentioned. It is 60.
So after the loss in the SEC championship game yesterday, Carolina falling to Texas 78-61, that now turns our attention to the NCAA tournament. Now, Selection Sunday, 6 days away. I can't wait. But I think we all know South Carolina is going to be a 1. You go 31-3 and you win the SEC regular season. going 15-1 in conference play, yeah, you're going to be a number 1 seed. Now the question is, do they get the 3rd 1 seed or the 4th 1 seed? Now this is significant because depending on UConn, I'm operating under the assumption they're going to let UConn be the number 1 overall seed, even though their resume does not stack up to someone like UCLA's. Like, you want to hear some crazy numbers? UCLA is 18-1 in quad 1 games. 18-1. Oh, and the 18th quad 1 win they got was yesterday in the Big Ten Championship, where they beat the number 10 team in net, Iowa, by 41 points.
I mean, what?
They
watched
took
that. It was insane.
A chainsaw to Iowa yesterday. I was keeping up with the score throughout the game, yesterday when I was in Greenville. And I could not believe how bad it was. I figured UCLA probably won by 20. But I didn't think they'd win by 40 plus. So UCLA should be, if I am fielding this bracket, should be the number 1 overall seed despite their 1 loss. Their only loss came to Texas. And I believe that was on a neutral site.
And then that says something right there.
Yeah, and that tells you how good Texas is. Texas is the only team to beat UCLA, who ran through the Big Ten Conference, who has a large number of teams in the top 20 in net, undefeated, unscathed. If you look at it, like the 1 seeds are clear. It's going to be UConn, UCLA, South Carolina, Texas, a.k.a. what the Final Four was in Tampa last year. Those will be your 1 seeds this season. I think the big question that remains now is what order they go in, and I have a feeling, despite the resumes being similar with South Carolina and Texas, I think Texas taking 2 of 3 is ultimately going to put them ahead of South Carolina.
It should, because head-to-head should matter.
It should. It absolutely should.
And if it doesn't matter, then why are we playing? And if I beat you 2 out of 3, if there's something on the line, I should be the one that gets to the victor goes the spoils. And in this case, it should be the number 3 seed. I don't have any problem with that.
And then, if Carolina's the 4, which I expect, and if they make UConn the 1, then if you make the Final Four, you're going to get UConn or UCLA. Tough draw. But that means maybe you just don't see Texas again.
So, playing a little bit of bracket math here, do we want UConn to be number 1? Who do we...
Oh, well, that's a really good question. Would I rather see UConn or UCLA?
Yeah, I think that's the question I'm asking.
Woo! I think at this point I'd rather see UConn. UCLA is a buzzsaw, man. I thought last year might have been UCLA's
I'm just saying.
year, but buddy.
So if we're presuming that we're going to be the number 4 seed, we're really paying attention to who the 1st seed is.
Yes. And
I'm going to go ahead on record and say I'd rather see UConn.
And according to Charlie Cream, ESPN's women's basketball bracketologist, UConn is the number 1 overall seed.
I would prefer that.
And South Carolina is the number 4 overall seed.
I'll take that.
I think I would take that too. And UCLA being the 2, even though I wouldn't field it that way. But he does have South Carolina playing High Point at 16 in the first round, and then the 8-9 game is Oklahoma State, Southern Cal, which you've already beat Southern Cal back in November by double figures. Tough second round game, sure, but also the other teams in your region would be North Carolina, Minnesota, Alabama, TCU, who did end up losing by double figures in their conference championship game. Yeah, West Virginia beat them in the Big 12 title game. And then Iowa is the 2 seed there. And as good as Iowa's been this year, I would feel good if you found them in the Elite 8. But the unfortunate part is if that does come true and you are the 4 seed, or not 4 seed, the 4th 1 seed, you will have to travel all the way out to Sacramento for your regional games, as opposed to Dallas, Fort Worth.
Yeah, that's
bit of a haul.
That's a very far and difficult place to get into. It's not as if it's an easy place that you, even if it was far, let's say it was LA, you could get there a lot easier. Like Sacramento is very difficult to get to. So that's not ideal, obviously, and Dallas would have been perfect because I know they have direct flights flying out of CAE straight there. That would have been perfect, but we didn't win the game.
Would have been nice, yeah.
But we didn't get it. So Vic, now you get a chance to have an essential home game, and I don't want to hear you complain about it.
Yeah, and you can't complain if someone else is complaining about it.
Right, if somebody
you're
else
a master complainer.
Correct. You cannot complain because you earned the right to have that home spot. So Good on you.
It's funny. I didn't hear him complaining about the game being in Greenville yesterday at all.
You know what? Not at all.
Yeah, interesting. Interesting. He didn't have a problem with it yesterday. It was cool.
He also didn't take his sport coat off either. That's how we knew we
Two
never,
And
straight
he wore
games.
the same one.
we never had him.
Yeah, 2 straight games.
Wonder what's up with the wardrobe. Yeah.
Yeah, bless him. I mean, I think things kind of rough.
Maybe he was like, you know what? This one's working well.
If it ain't broke,
Keep
don't
rolling.
fix it.
Maybe.
That
He
could
probably
be.
is a little superstitious. Maybe
Axe
him
body
taking,
spray.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a little bit to mask certain smells. But maybe he's just superstitious, and that's why he ends up throwing the jacket off after a bad stretch during a game. But he did not toss the sport coat once. He did not do it in the semifinal against Ole Miss either.
2 in a row.
That sport coat, and I can't confirm nor deny if it stayed on the entire time in the game against Alabama in the quarterfinal Friday night.
Okay.
But I do know for 2 straight games, Vic has not removed the sport coat. We will go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6200. That is the number to call. Hank is on the line with us this morning. Good morning, Hank. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, how's it going? I was in Greenville yesterday. Greenville actually all weekend.
Nice.
And so, yeah, had a good time. You know, wish you could get yesterday. Once they got out to that little 14-0 lead, I knew it was going to be tough because it just looked like we were kind of, just like y'all said earlier. There are teams, even when we don't have legs, we could probably chase down, but it's hard to chase down a team when your legs are gone, your mentally is spent. And I really thought that a big part of yesterday's game really happened the day before when we played LSU. Yesterday's tournament, this weekend's tournament was kind of similar to last year's tournament, and the fact that Texas had to play LSU the night before, and I think their game went into overtime or double overtime. And when we got off to a good start last year, it looked like Texas was spent, and there was no way they were going to be able to chase us down. So, the key is, if you get LSU in the semifinal, you're going to be spent because even though they haven't won it, you were going to work no matter when you play them. So, I think it's a bad day at the office. But I don't mind. I was looking at symmetry. I don't mind, if we end up going to Sacramento because we dealt with injuries and some stuff this year. And like Dawn and Dawn said, because she knows and some of the older coaches know, it's kind of similar. If you remember I think it was our first national championship, we had to go through California. We ended up, I don't know how we ended up in that seed. I forgot what they were doing back then, but we came off a loss, went out South California in the regionals, won, and then came back to wherever was it, Dallas or something, and won the championship. So I think all 4 teams are elite. I agree with y'all. I think I'd rather be paired up with UConn, not because they're not elite like all the other 4 teams. Physically physical, I don't think they are the same. I think they play a more, not finesse than a basketball, but just a more, they don't play as physical as our leagues in the Big Ten. And so at the Final Four, I think you don't want to have to go through one really physical game and then turn around the next 2 nights and go to another team that plays as physical as you. So looking forward to the tournament. We'll see what happens.
For sure. Absolutely. Appreciate the call, Hank. And, yeah, I think that's an interesting point there with if you're playing LSU in the semifinal, then it might spell doom for the final if you exert a lot of emotional energy.
Spoilers.
And also, it takes some bracket breaks. Like Vanderbilt got clubbed by Ole Miss on Friday night. And instead of having to play Vanderbilt, who has been really good this season and had the Conference Player of the Year, Michaela Blakes, Texas got to play Ole Miss, who was playing on Game 3 in 3 straight nights. And they got to cruise in that game, and I think that probably helps a little bit. But as physical as Texas is, yeah, I wouldn't want to play Texas again just because, A, there's that crazy familiarity. Last year, I would have been fine with playing them again. I think Texas is definitely better this year than they were last year.
Yeah, and when you talk about bracket breaks, we always have to maybe that's why there's a soft spot in my heart for them, because I believe firmly that Vic Schaefer helped us win our first national title when they beat UConn.
Right? Yeah.
So
Certainly.
it's always a soft spot for Vic because I don't know if it would have happened if they didn't take care of that business.
Coming up next, though, the biggest shot of the weekend came from the men's basketball team. We'll tell you what happened next.
Looking for countertops for your kitchen or bath? Well, let me tell you, I've got the place. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. They know that those kitchen and bath projects, they can be a significant investment, and they work really hard to make sure that they deliver the highest quality, most affordable granite, marble, and quartz, still providing the best customer service. And I'm telling you, it's a pretty simple equation. Great countertops with no compromises. We were putting together redoing a couple of bathrooms, needed countertops, and we went to see Ethan and Rebecca, and we're so impressed. We went to their showroom, which is incredible, asked a lot of questions, and they helped guide us, and every step of the process was great. If you are looking for countertops for your kitchen or bath, reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and tell them Jen Jensen sent you. They're family-owned and operated, and I assure you, they are beyond your expectations, and they are beyond Columbia in Chapin. Visit them online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Gervais Street at Bull, there's still an accident in progress there. Also working one Summit Parkway at Clemson Road and Decker Boulevard at O'Neill Court. And that forecast looking pretty good for the next few days. We do maybe 82 is the high that we're looking for today. Might see a couple showers in the morning tomorrow. Then those will clear for a high of 85. 87 potentially on Wednesday. Then we might see a few showers and a little cooler temperature on Thursday, 70 for the high. Right now, a little bit of patchy dense fog out there, and it is 60 on 107.5 The Game.
Man, out of all the basketball played this weekend, championship basketball played this weekend, locally, the biggest shot heard around the Southeast came when it was tied at 61 with less than 5 seconds left. And Meechie Johnson did this.
Get it in, and here comes Meech into the front court. Pulls up, lets a long three go, and buries it. 7/10 of a second left. Meechie Johnson from 30 feet. Ole Miss will inbound to Dia. He lets it go with the buzzer, and it's off the top of the backboard. And you can put Spurs on this one. Meechie Johnson with a three-pointer in the final second of play. Wins it for the Gamecocks against Ole Miss. And Carolina will wrap up the regular season with its 4th SEC win of the season.
How many volts of electricity coursed through Derek Scott's veins whenever he saw that ball go into the basket?
Well, the good thing is Meechie from 30 is not a new thing that we have to. It wasn't. Meechie wasn't being forced to take a 30-footer. He does this.
Oh yeah.
So this is
he stepped right into that sucker, dude.
He was built for this moment. So yeah, man, I'm glad. It was a very nice way to provide a little bit of respite during what was a very difficult season.
That was my thing after that. Is it may seem like a meaningless game at the end of the regular season, but with the year they've had and some of the results they've had and the amount of discourse we've had to have in terms of talking about this team this year, they needed that in the worst way. And I feel so good for Meechie Johnson because his college basketball career is coming to an end, and he gets that to have as a memory, hitting a 35, 40-foot jump shot essentially at the buzzer to be able to beat Ole Miss. And I said on Friday, that was a winnable game. That was a very winnable game. But they were able to pull that off, and those type of wins are so exciting. I don't really care the context. Any type of buzzer-beating win is so thrilling, and that's what you play basketball for, is that type of feeling. And this team just hasn't had to have much of that all year long. Even the close games they've played, they didn't pull through. And they finally got to see one go in at a time where they really needed it. And whether or not it actually means anything long-term, I don't even really care. I don't care. I think I am more happy for those dudes because they got to experience that in a season full of not-so-fun experiences.
Yeah, and the whole thing is that you play the whole season and you hope at some point it's going to break through, and a lot of times it doesn't because you're on a bad team. But even a bad team, like I said, even the sun shines somewhere on every day. So,
and the sun shines in Seattle every once in a while.
Correct. So, man, hey, you got to take it for what it's worth. Meechie cut it up, put it on your highlight tape, man. Look at it when you get old, because it regardless of what the circumstances surrounding it are, it's still a cool win. That being said, moving forward, I didn't realize 4 wins in the SEC would not put you at the bottom.
Not at the total bottom. Now,
I mean, not holding up the bottom.
That's right. You want to hear me ruffle some feathers here, or maybe make some people uncomfortable or roll their eyes? Technically speaking.
Oh no.
Technically speaking, this team surpassed expectations. They are picked last in the SEC, and they didn't finish last. Technically speaking, with a 14th place finish, they surpassed expectation.
You'd be a good agent.
I would.
You got to walk in there and be like, we surpassed expectations.
Hey, Jeremiah. Hey, you see this list right here? It's a list of 16 teams that the coaches and media chose at the beginning of the year as to who's going to win the SEC championship. You see that 16 right there? That's us. Now, here's the final standings right here. You see that 14? That's us. That's +2 above expectation. Am I getting laughed out of the room? Absolutely. But you know what? If that was my job, then I am absolutely pulling that out.
Yeah, that's a very, very tough argument that you'd have to make there.
But they did it. Now, that means they will play Oklahoma, which a very winnable game because guess what? One of those 4 wins came against Oklahoma here earlier in the season. They'll get Oklahoma in the first round of the SEC tournament in Nashville. And that's the tip-off time isn't set in stone. It's like an approximate 9:30 Eastern tip. And as happy as I am for them that they got to advance in the SEC standings on the last day of the regular season, buddy, it's going to be a late night in Nashville.
Yeah, that's typically the slot where they end up playing. Another reason why that win is important because you get that win going into the tournament.
Yes.
And so now we're not going like 1, 2, 3 Cancun, right?
Right.
You know, we're not doing this thing where it's like, hey, man, you know, you're looking around the room like, are y'all ready to end this? Because you get a win, it's like, okay, maybe.
Hey, this was fun. You want to
cool.
do this again?
Yeah, if you go into the tournament off a loss, 15th, 16th, everybody's looking around like, let's wrap it up.
Oh, especially if you would have played like a 9-seeded Vanderbilt or something. I think Kentucky ended up getting the 9. And that would have been, if you had the 16, that'd be the team you have to play to start the SEC tournament. And you would probably be like, they beat us once already. This is going to be tough. But then it's like, oh, not only are we coming in off a win, we've already beaten Oklahoma this year. We could do this.
There you go.
Maybe it gives you something.
Maybe
it actually gives you a little bit of juice, which would be nice. I mean, as bad as the year has gone, to at least end on something, because they're not going to the NCAA tournament. I don't think they're going to make it a miraculous run. I don't think a team's ever played as the lower seed on the first day of the tournament in the SEC and won the whole thing. At least in my memory. I mean, really the closest thing, I don't know when Georgia started that run in, 2007, the year that it had to be moved from the Georgia Dome to Georgia Tech because of the tornado.
Yeah.
I know Georgia made a miraculous run. That was a team that won the SEC tournament and got like an 11 seed. Also something that may never happen again. Shout out Sunday Otta Gaines. But, like, who knows? Maybe you can end up having a fun experience. And if you can stay in Nashville for multiple days, that's at least a positive way to end your season. For what it's worth, right? And I don't know, for those who listened on Friday, I said Ole Miss is a team that you can rebound with. And you'll never guess what happened. In the 4 factors, South Carolina won the offensive rebound percentage battle. They haven't won that all year.
Well,
seemingly haven't beaten anybody on the glass all year. And they got one. They got one on Saturday. That game is going to be the first round of the SEC tournament. Oh, yeah, approximately 9:30. Now, none of these things start on time, I will say. The SEC tournament never starts games on time.
Of all the technological innovations we cannot figure out how to run a tournament on time at any level.
Yeah.
It just can't. You just can't build in for everything that has to happen.
Especially considering some of those things go to overtime, but like the game before, if it goes to overtime, buddy, you have messed up the entire schedule.
It's a domino effect.
It affects everybody else. Heaven forbid one of those 3 games before it actually ends up going to overtime. But coming up next, Dr. Preston Thorne prescribed a sweep of the 5 games this past week for the Carolina baseball team. And guess what? They did it, and we'll tell you exactly how they did it. And did they achieve the objectives that I set out for them? Specifically, we'll break that down coming up next here in the early game. So starting back to last week, because this time last week we were talking about losing 2-1 against Clemson in the biggest non-conference series of the year. Since then, Carolina beats USC Upstate 12-3. They beat Charleston Southern 4-1. In the doubleheader against Princeton, they took the first one 10-7, took the second one 4-3, and then run-ruled Princeton yesterday 13-1 in 7 innings. Dr. Preston Thorne over here, not a real doctor, but he's going to play one on the radio, prescribed a 5-0 week against the mid-major opponents to prove that you can take care of business against those mid-major opponents, which not everybody in the SEC did this weekend. Looking at you, Florida. Dropping a series to High Point.
Mm-hmm. Very close to getting swept.
It was 12-11 yesterday. Goodness gracious. But they did what was prescribed, and they go 5-0 on the week. It was a good week for Gamecock baseball after a pretty tumultuous first stretch this season.
More importantly than going 5-0 is they achieved the goal that I needed them to achieve, which was to stay off of my timeline on the internet. That's all they needed to achieve. I had to go and search for the results for the game, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
That's a good thing. Almost kind of forgot that they were playing these games. I had to go and search for the results. It wasn't them popping up on the timeline followed by comments about the program and the state of the program and all that. All I needed them to do was just stay out the way this weekend, and the way they would do that is by winning. Just win these 5 games. We didn't need to just lay low and win. Lay low and win. Nobody's paying attention. We got SEC championship over here. And so it was good that my feed was full of that as opposed to the baseball team slipping up and losing against Princeton or whoever. So they did exactly what they needed to do, which was get the heat off you for a little while.
Yes.
Just let it back up.
Especially going into the stretch you're about to go into. You got the Citadel on Tuesday on the road.
Still need to get that one.
Get that one. You get that one, then you go at Florida. And then, but in that game too, yeah, Florida's a top, 15 team. And then.
Who just lost to High Point.
Yep. Who struggled mightily against High Point. And you're saying, hey, if you take 2 of 3 there, you win that series, changes the tenor of how things are going to be.
And so it's not wiping a clean slate. It's not forgetting that they lost the Clemson series or that, Army happened or whatever the case. We're not forgetting that. Yeah. We're not forgetting that. But I think I'm willing to say, all right, with this 6 wins, we can start the SEC.
Yeah.
And let's see where we go from here.
Well, that shows progress.
It shows progress. It shows that we're ready to start the SEC, and we get back on board for what the team has in store. Don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Don't know what the results will be. But I believe those 6 wins allows, at least speaking for myself, allows me to say, all right, we can take you seriously. Now let's go.
Now, I had 6 individual objectives, and clearly number 1 was win all 3 from this weekend. But I said have less than an error per game. Almost. They had 4 errors in 3 games. Almost achieved that. But that's a no. Starters all go at least 4 full innings. Josh Gunther only went 3 1/3. So didn't meet that objective. Got close to it. Didn't necessarily meet it. But no more than 4 walks in a game. Check. Getting over 8 hits per game. Close. Actually, I need to go back and do the average there. But I know they had 1 or 2. They were under 8 hits in each game. 3 home runs. They doubled that. Had 6, which I thought was very encouraging. And then fighting fatigue, because the last time you had a doubleheader and then a game the next day, your coach was citing fatigue as the reason you lost to Northern Kentucky. You played a doubleheader against Princeton on Saturday, and then the Sunday game you run-ruled them. 2 thumbs up. I will take that. Gladly acceptable for that. And then we think about things over the course of the week. Yeah, the women's basketball team got beat by Texas in the SEC championship game. That's a bummer. But given the baseball team going 5-0, men's basketball team winning on Saturday, pretty successful Gamecock sports weekend.
I like how you had a little bit of uptick on there. Texas did beat us in softball.
There was that one.
So there was that.
Texas is really good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Texas is obviously really good in
Still like
softball.
to win that. Yeah, figuring out some pitching stuff.
That being said, if I was to give an overall grade, that's a tough one.
Maybe not perfect. B.
C+.
C+, okay.
C+. C+ only because we count on the women for so much. And one time they didn't come through. We count on them to get us that A, but C plus, we'll take it.
I think, in men's sports, I guess, with baseball and basketball alone, you went like 5-0 baseball, so then 6 with basketball. It's 6-1 because they did lose to Tennessee during the week last Tuesday. 6-1. You haven't had a lot of those weeks.
That's true.
I will say.
That is
for the men's sports specifically, you have not had a lot of those weeks. So does it spell success in the future? Not directly, right? If baseball turns around, do you point to this week as the thing that made him turn it around? Maybe. But there's still a chance things can go wrong in SEC play. However, I find no problem taking a little bit of enjoyment out of a weekend of actually winning games.
Yeah, and because that's what you needed to do. As I said, the most important part was they just stayed off the timeline. They just did not make waves. They just did what they were supposed to do, and a lot of times that is enough.
Certainly. And with the baseball team, too, one important thing that I did note is that you did score 27 runs in 3 games. Like, that's 9 runs a game. And against Princeton, I think that's what you're supposed to do. And we've had a lot of discussions about the bats, right? About the bats maybe struggling at certain points. Again, that Northern Kentucky loss, you score only 2 runs. You struggle at certain other parts of the season in non-conference play. But maybe the most encouraging sign is that you were averaging 9 runs a game, and then at the same time, only gave up 11, I believe, on the weekend. So I'll take that. I'll take that anytime. 2 thumbs up. Coming up next, though, the South Carolina women's basketball team lost in the SEC championship game. However, they did get to exert their dominance over another SEC foe for the 19th straight time, and we'll discuss that next.
Decker Boulevard at O'Neill Court, still working an earlier slowdown there. Also, Gervais at Bull Street. I-20 westbound at Clemson Road. Also on I-20 westbound, have an accident at Monticello Road, or actually a disabled vehicle there. And then I-26 eastbound, just after exit 91. Also an accident. One more to let you know about, Summit Parkway at Clemson Road. So definitely kind of Monday-ing this morning. It's going to be clearing skies today, 82 for the high, 85 tomorrow after maybe we get through a chance for some morning showers. And then 87 on Wednesday. Going to be a little bit cooler later in the week. But right now, a little patchy dense fog and 60.
Hour number 2 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we thank you for hanging out with us here this morning on the early game up until 9 o'clock. And despite it being an unfortunate end to the weekend for the Lady Gamecocks, they did, on Saturday, do something that they have done every single time they played LSU since January of 2012, my senior year of high school. That is win. And for the 19th straight time, South Carolina beats LSU in women's basketball, meaning Kim Mulkey, since taking the head coaching job at LSU, still has not beaten Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks. Carolina wins 83-77. A, incredible basketball game, incredible environment, a whole lot of fun. B, buddy, it feels like LSU will never be able to beat them again.
It's going to happen eventually, right? Because the law of averages just say that it has to happen. But I'm telling y'all, they got broke on Valentine's Day.
I think it might have.
That ball going in and out, circling the drain, coming out, missing those 2 free throws. I don't know if they're going to be able to. There's a block.
And I think it's in Kim's head as well, because we saw some issues as far as like coaching or managing the clock, not taking timeouts, letting 30 seconds run. It just seems like, as much as anything, we broke her.
It's so wild to me that in that situation, I'm sitting here on press row 2, and I'm going the entire time that, again, there's a 5 or 6 point game, maybe like a 6 point game. There's 45 seconds, I guess. They have 2 fouls to give. Like, if you commit 2 fouls, like, that's what it takes to be able to get Carolina to the free throw line. Time is really of the essence here, and they play the whole possession out. I'm sitting here going, why aren't you fouling? Why aren't you prolonging this game as much as you can, putting pressure on Carolina to hit free throws? Like, fine, cool with it, but, like, why? What are you doing?
Right.
And thankfully, somebody did ask Kim Mulkey after the game. And here's the wild thing. Kim Mulkey said, I told them to foul. I don't know why we didn't. And then after a certain point, we realized we just have to play the possession through because you've already wasted 20 seconds. Which I get. You know, at a certain point, it's like, okay, why waste 20 seconds and then still not foul? Because if you foul then, you reset the shot clock. That's one of those things. You have to foul immediately. And then you have to foul immediately again to send Carolina to the free throw line. And when it goes to the point of maybe Valentine's Day broke them mentally a little bit, I don't know how you can have a team like LSU that's got a lot of seasoned veteran players in that huddle, hear their coach say, hey, we have 2 fouls to give, we need to foul immediately, and go out there and just not do it.
That's assuming they were told.
That's assuming they were told. Also true.
That's my next place, because usually most coaches will take the blame themselves and take it off the players. And she's like, So I would love to know, because I'm with you.
Maybe she didn't communicate as clearly as she thought she did, or maybe,
right.
I don't know, but they typically don't have those types of breakdowns. And like you said, Jen, most of the time coaches are like, I don't know what happened there. I don't know.
There was a little bit of throwing underneath some type of theoretical bus.
Yeah, no kidding.
Or just maybe the amount of the frustration that you have where you can't quite edit yourself the way appropriately at the time, but
the 20-minute cool down period after the game was not long enough.
Was not enough.
Yeah, it was not enough.
And also, it might not be enough because you've lost to this team 19 times and you cannot get over the hump.
And maybe she said foul, and they were thinking Gamecock.
Oh, F-O-W.
W-L instead of F-O-U-L. So maybe there was a little miscommunication there, too.
There could be.
Yeah.
And I can understand that misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what that becomes.
Trying to help you out, Ken.
It's a misunderstanding. But what's funny is, though, too, about like this series, and again, we can't call it a rivalry because you kind of need to win at least once in the last 19 meetings for it to be considered something of a rivalry. So don't call it that. But in this series, there have been some close games. Saturday night was a close game.
They're usually typically close.
Valentine's Day was a close game.
Yeah.
When they played a couple of years ago during the undefeated season in Baton Rouge, it took a Bree Hall 3 to be able to win that game. Close game. And the SEC championship game that year, close game. There are a lot of close meetings between these two teams, and usually, the law of averages tells you you can't win all of them. But South Carolina is winning all of them, and I guess if you can find a microcosm as to why the foul management at the end of the game or not fouling, and maybe if we are taking Kim at her word, there is a mental edge they just do not have in this series, right? There is something that's just missing mentally, because I thought at halftime, I was like, I think it might end tonight. Because they were dominating on the glass too. Because if you take the first half of that game and the last 4 quarters in Baton Rouge, the last 6 quarters that they played up till halftime of Saturday night, LSU was grabbing 40+% of their missed shots. That's dominant on the glass. Now, there are a couple ways you could have looked at that, because I remember Lulu and I had a really good discussion, Lulu Kesson from the Greenville News at halftime, and we're talking about it, and she goes, well, I feel good about it because, Joyce and Medina only have like a combined 5 points, and you're still only down 4. And I said, yeah, but at the same time, Flau'jae Johnson's 1 for 6, and LSU's up. And I'm sure if you told Kim Mulkey that morning Flau'jae would have a bad half, and you're still up 4 at the break, she probably would have been tickled pink to know that, we're in good shape. And then it all kind of just falls apart in the third quarter. And that's where Carolina beat them by 9, and ultimately that was the big kind of separator right there. And in the second half, after grabbing 8 offensive rebounds in the first, LSU grabbed only 2 in the second. And then they missed a bunch of threes. 3-point shooting also was a killer, because Carolina was 7 for 17 from 3, including 4 from Raven, who also just took over the game. And then LSU was 7 for 21. End up chucking a lot of them late.
Yeah. Listen, man, the flip side of them starting to think like, here we go again, is the confidence that you have when you've beat a team 19 times in a row. It's like, we can't lose to them.
It's halftime of the game. You're down 4. You have not played your best basketball in those first two quarters. I thought LSU kind of worked them in terms of the physicality aspect in those first 2 quarters. Medina getting in foul trouble, I think, had a lot to do with that. And LSU had a little bit of an edge inside when it came to things like rebounding, post scoring at that point in the game.
And Malaysia.
And
she was pretty strong.
Was awesome.
She was on a tear.
Maybe the best game we've ever seen from her.
From
her time
she was really
here.
good. Definitely better than Valentine's.
For sure. I mean, I want to say her 24 points is a career high. And she scored a lot of that in the first about 3 quarters of the game. Missed some shots late. Took her 21 shots to get to that point. So maybe not the most efficient shooting night, but you saw her get out in transition, and she seemed to be extra motivated in that game, as she should. Like, I totally understand. And that's what makes this series so intriguing, is because you have that little bit of a crossover. But it was so wild to me to watch it unfold in the last 2 quarters of that game, to where I went to, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was at an 8 of Carolina being in trouble, of how much they were in trouble.
Oh, wow.
To by the time the third quarter ended, I was like, oh, boy, I actually had that wrong completely. Like, that was, I might have underestimated, Medina Okot's impact, because either she was 1 for 11 for the first 3 quarters. Still, when she was on the floor, they were outscoring LSU by 15 points. She was a plus 15 in that game, even when she did not shoot very well, because she is such a good rebounder. And that type of stuff mattered a lot on Saturday night. So even though you didn't win the SEC tournament, that was still a pretty fun win.
Yeah, you continue that streak moving forward. We'll wait till bracketology comes out again to see if this might happen. Who knows? This might have to happen again. We'll see.
If they get the highest 2 seed. I think in terms of net ranking right now, like the latest net ranking has LSU as 5 in net.
Okay.
And so really the teams that are going to be competing for 2s are going to be like LSU, Iowa, Duke, Vanderbilt maybe, Michigan. But even then you look at the resumes, they're all very comparable. I could see LSU. I could see LSU certainly getting a 2 seed.
Now, this 19th win in a row led to our favorite tweet of the weekend.
This does win tweet of the weekend because just, looking at a lot of the reaction from this game, I did not expect a tweet from Boosie to show up on the timeline at all. And also, the first comment, when you look at that tweet, is hilarious. Now, Boosie is from Louisiana, right? He makes it very clear in all of his music.
Baton Rouge specifically.
He tweets, in all caps, "I'm so tired of South Carolina beating us!" Exclamation mark emoji. In which Darius Rucker comments, "I totally get and understand your frustration. I mean, 19 in a row is tough to deal with."
Those are the type of interactions that Twitter can bring to you that you would never expect. These two gentlemen from their various walks of life. But it's almost, it's horseshoe theory. Like, they're so...
Right. Eventually it comes.
They're kind of the same guy. But, yeah, Boosie and Darius commencing over women's basketball is something that you can only would find on the internet. And only in places where sports really matter. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Only in places where sports really matter, where these two guys who are legends, absolute legends in music industry, stop everything to watch these games because these games are that important to everybody.
It's amazing how much of a unifier it became. I mean, there are a lot of things going into like a conference tournament that I expect, and there are things that happen that I don't expect. I don't know what I didn't expect more, how Texas started that game yesterday, or seeing the Twitter interaction between Boosie and Darius Rucker.
Again, man, absolute Southeastern legends. Boosie has been all through the Southeast running. He's been on tour for 25 years in various. And the cool thing about Boosie is Boosie makes his money in your town, like Savannah. Augusta, Baton Rouge, Darlington.
He's not making a bunch of stops in New York or L.A. or Boston.
He's in Brunswick, Georgia, for the weekend, something like that. So he's very much, if there was might be at the top of like SEC artist. You know what I'm saying? You know how they talk about Will Muschamp is Mr. SEC.
Certainly.
Boosie might be very high up there on Mr. SEC as far as his imprint nationwide as what he actually does, because you can find Boosie any Thursday through Saturday somewhere in some SEC town singing "Set It Off."
Right.
And it's going to be going down.
What's so funny is that I think that might have inspired me for us to make a list at some point this summer of the all SEC town performers. It's a very specific subsect.
Like, coming now, Buford, catch Boosie, singing "Set It Off."
Alabama, right outside the Buc-ee's in Leeds.
He's going to be Florence. Here we go. Boosie's back again.
At the Buc-ee's too. He is performing.
He just performs
Boosie at Boosie's.
He's only 5. He only performs near Buc-ee's. That's his routing. That's his touring routing.
Well, that could be worse.
Listen, he's done very well for himself.
Honestly, catch you a concert, fill up with gas because you don't have to wait to get gas because
get some
so many pumps.
snacks.
You can get some snacks. There's plenty of brisket.
He's done very well in the SEC.
Oh yeah, he does. Certainly going to be on top of the list of the all SEC town performers if we were to ever make a list that long, which, you know what? It's going to be a long summer. I think we'll certainly have time to do that. Maybe we can invite him on the morning meeting. But he won't be available today. It's pretty short notice because the morning meeting is coming up next. And on the morning meeting, we're going to have Preston Thorne relive some good, spring practice football memories and the ones that he hated in terms of specific drills. We'll discuss that. We'll go down the memory bank of Preston Thorne, and we'll learn a little bit more about the inner workings of spring practice and football coming up next.
I-20 westbound at Clemson Road, working an accident there. Also, I-26 eastbound just after exit 91. And I-26 westbound, exit 119. There is an accident if you're coming from the Orangeburg area. 82 today for the high. 85 tomorrow, maybe a morning shower to start things off. And then 87 on Wednesday. We have a little bit of patchy dense fog right now and sitting at 60 on 107.5 The Game.
It's time for the morning meeting. We'll break down some of Preston's spring practice PTSD, and we will get to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. But with that being said, let's get this thing started.
Good morning. Good morning. Repeat after me. Today will be an awesome day. Let's go. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day. Good morning, great today. Today will be an awesome day.
Of course it will. I love this time of year, man. I'm so juiced.
This is your time.
Oh, I live for this. I live for this every single year. I could not be happier, right? As soon as we get to this part of the basketball season and just this time. So it's an awesome day for me. And it'll be an awesome few days, even if it's busy few days. But before we get to Preston's favorite drills that he did in spring practice and most fun, more importantly, his least favorite, we will go out to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, 803-404-6100, where our pal Rocky is on the line. Good morning, Rocky. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. I'm happy to report on time for the morning meeting.
Yes.
Yes, we appreciate you.
Promptly. Actually, I would even say early. I think you called in right before the break, so you was early to the meeting.
A couple of things, actually, on the men's and women's basketball teams, and I'm going to go I'm kind of going where a win is good for you and where a loss could be good for you. And let's go with the men. And first I say the win on Saturday, given the course of their season, the win was good. It gives you a positive taste in your mouth. It gives you something to feel good about going into the SEC tournament. Conversely to that, I say on the women's side, and yesterday, sometimes a loss can be good, especially when you're humbled at going into the NCAA tournament. It just makes it gives you, while it may be a bad taste, it kind of gets you humbled a bit and grounded, and Dawn can get back to the practice floor and they can understand, you know what, they're not invincible and they can be beat, and they're going to have to refocus and move forward. So I think in that particular case, and I think Dawn might have even said it, that sometimes a loss can be good for you.
Oh, certainly.
As you move forward. So that's kind of my thoughts this morning.
Yeah, appreciate the call as always, Rocky. And to your point, too,
All right, man.
Jen sent in our group text a quote from Dawn Staley this weekend, where she says, I told them the last time we lost in this situation, we won the national championship. It might be the very thing this team needs. And the last time they lost in the SEC Tournament Championship was in Nashville, Bridgestone Arena, where they got beat by a very good Kentucky team, led by Ryan Howard. I think she's doing pretty good in the WNBA right now. Kentucky beat them, and they go on to win a national championship. It turned out, and I think you could ask even Dawn now, was that maybe the best thing that could have happened to that team? Potentially. And they end up running the table.
Yep.
So.
And honestly, if you weigh them, if you won the SEC season as the season outright, okay, great. If you don't win the SEC tournament, okay. If you can win the NCAA tournament, which do you want?
I would take that trade-off. Yeah. I would absolutely take it.
And no guarantee they're going to win it, but it's like, okay, if they didn't win the SEC tournament, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go fight for the big one.
Again, I usually say this sarcastically, but all their goals are still in front of them, right? They're still there for them. Final Four championship are still very much achievable, still very much milestones that they can. And like Rocky said, sometimes you just need to be and it's not necessarily that they were, puffing their chest out and full of themselves. It's not the case, but you always need to know that right around the corner is a loss if you don't play to your best ability, and that's fine.
Oh, for sure. I think it is good, especially against a team like Texas too, where I have a feeling that Texas, South Carolina, UCLA, and UConn will all meet again in Phoenix the same way they met again. They met last season in Tampa, and a team that is of that caliber. And playing against them, how crucial, getting off to a good start is, not giving up a 14-0 run, right? How all those stretches in the game all ultimately lead to what the final score ends up being. And if you have a bad first 4 minutes of the game, it could be detrimental. There are lessons to be learned there, and I think that part is maybe the most valuable.
But how, honestly, if you think about it, how almost spoiled do we sound? Oh my gosh, they didn't win the tournament, so now what?
Right.
They came in second place.
Lost in the championship.
I mean, really, that's a really tough problem to have.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, like they're at a spot in their program where I am assuming.
It's expected.
Yeah, I know I'm going to spend 3 days in Greenville. First week of every March, I'm going to spend 3 days in Greenville.
Not 5, 3.
Yeah, exactly. They're not having to play in the first round, right?
Yep.
They will get that double bye, and I will be there on Sunday.
Yep.
That's always the assumption every single year. I go into it thinking, all right, this weekend in March I'll be there. I'll be in Greenville Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that has certainly held true the last few years, and that's just where the program's at right now. If you spend a lot of time in Greenville in March, then you are very accustomed to seeing South Carolina playing on that Sunday. But with spring practice coming out, or not coming up, it's already here. We're in it, right? Preston Thorne, your favorite drills from spring practice and the ones you hated.
Favorite, first live team session.
Okay.
First live team session is when you have the pads on. You finally are not doing any drills. It's actually live 11 on 11 team session, preferably with the offense moving the ball. That is probably the peak spring experience because you've been lifting weights, you've been wanting to get into sports, wanting to get into football, and now you finally get a chance to play football.
Like the actual football part.
Now, this doesn't last long because in a couple of days you will be tired of going against your own teammates. But for the first live team experience, that first 11 on 11 is probably the best part of the spring because you're not going to play anybody else, and this is like the only football that you're going to have. And so there is going to be a couple of different variations that would happen. So that would be my short list of favorites from the spring.
Again, emphasis on the short list.
I wanted to start with that.
I knew that list would be a little bit shorter than the ones that you didn't look forward to.
Now, what you don't look forward to is mostly everything else because the thing about the spring is there can be a tone of monotony to it, especially as you advance in your career because at least what we used to do, RP coach, I mean, we're going back to square one. I'm talking getting in a stance, taking your first steps. This is how you block. This is how you tackle. This is hand placement. So as you get maybe a little bit further along in your career, you're like, oh, my God, we're going to have to do this again. But just because it's your fourth time doing it doesn't mean it's not the person's first time doing it, who's a young person on the team or whatever. So there's a sort of a monotony to spring practice. Also, you're not necessarily preparing to play anybody. You're just kind of playing football out there. So there's a little bit of that to it. But the worst thing about spring practice that there's no time constraints.
Ooh.
For Coach Holtz especially, right? So the way they used to measure practice is that they would measure it in periods. Every period is 5 minutes. And you do very good quick math in your head. You'd be like, okay, 5 minutes, how many? So you would ask like the trainer how many periods we got today. And it was top secret information. They weren't supposed to tell you. You just go out onto the field. You didn't know. But you'd be like, how many periods we got today? For real. You'd be like, 24 periods, which was essentially a 2-hour practice. It's a continuous clock. However, Coach Holtz would often look up to the person holding the clock, and he would give him one of these. And that would be him putting his hand over his watch. And that means hold the clock.
No.
And that means you stop the clock while you're still practicing, but you're stopping the clock. The only issue is Coach Holtz would often forget to restart the clock.
Whoops.
And everybody would be so scared of Coach that they wouldn't restart the clock. And so you might be in period 13 for 15 minutes instead of 5 minutes.
Oh,
This might
no.
happen once or twice a practice. And so my worst, in honor of Coach Holtz, my worst thing was whenever he would say, hold the clock, and then they wouldn't restart it because everybody was scared to death.
That's where the trauma came from, was holding the clock. But coming up next, there were some big NFL trades over the week, and we'll give our thoughts on them, our winners and losers next.
I-20 westbound at Clemson Road, still working on that earlier slowdown, as well as I-26 eastbound just after exit 91. I-26 eastbound approaching St. Andrews Road, that's exit 106. Traffic's pretty slow right now. I-26 westbound between mile marker 129 and 119. That's due to an accident at 119. But a big slowdown, so might want to try to find an alternate route if you were heading this way from Orangeburg. And forecast-wise, it's looking pretty nice. We will say 82 today, 85 with some morning showers tomorrow, 87 on Wednesday before it turns to 70 on Thursday.
Now, you may have missed it because of all the madness of the month of March. However, there were some big NFL trades this past week and over the weekend. I'll start from maybe least surprising to most surprising. Jen's Chicago Bears traded DJ Moore, wide receiver, to the Buffalo Bills, getting a second-round pick in return. I think they sent DJ Moore and a fifth to the Bills for a second-rounder.
Issues? Were there issues or any reasons why this was happening? They just felt like there was time to make a move?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I think so. I think even there was talk last year that he may not be there. So it's like, okay.
Probably a salary cap thing, too. And getting a second-rounder in there, I think, is a pretty good plus. And we give our winners and losers. You may be surprised where I put the Bears on that list for trading DJ Moore. Now, another one during the week that made some headlines. Los Angeles Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs engaged in a trade that sent Trent McDuffie to the Rams for a first-rounder. So now the Kansas City Chiefs will have 2 first-round picks this year. And then lastly, on Friday night, perennial Pro Bowler, All-Pro defensive end Max Crosby sent from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks. The Raiders got 2 out of it, so the Raiders will have the number 1 overall pick and the number 14 in this year's draft, and then they get the Baltimore Ravens first-rounder next year. So they'll have 2 first-rounders in next year's draft.
What's your thoughts on the strategy? I mean, this is a very broad idea, but in my mind, there's absolutely no guarantee that either one of those first-round picks will ever turn into Max Crosby.
Yeah, that's the issue with the Raiders is like the good news, Raiders, you have 2 first-round picks. The bad news, you're still the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
You can find a way to mess this up.
And so I can understand how Ravens fans might be like, oh, well, we gave away 2 picks, 2 first-rounders or whatever the case. But, man, there's no guarantee. We already know what Max Crosby is and what he perennial will be barring injury. When you get a first-round pick, you hope maybe if they're high enough in the first round, you might even could assume that they're going to be great, but you don't know. And so in the Ravens situation, in my opinion, it feels like they're pushing all the chips in.
Oh, this is it. The window is closing, and we're sliding like a sheet of paper or like a notebook or something just to keep it open a little bit before it slams shut.
They have about a 2-year window. It feels like, and I applaud them for putting the chips in and going for it.
Yep. Absolutely. That's why I think they're the biggest winner of all this is because it prolongs your window, and that it also not just prolongs the window, but it addressed the biggest need. Like they were atrocious at getting to the quarterback last year, one of the worst in the NFL in terms of affecting the other team's quarterback. And what are the 2 most important positions on the field? The quarterback and the guy that gets to the opposing team's quarterback. They have the quarterback thing down, and of course Lamar not being healthy this year hurt them a lot. But they didn't even have a guy who can get to the opposing team's quarterback. If you want to simplify a complex game down to just one scenario, to me, that's maybe one of the ways in terms of roster building that's the most important. Do you have at least the quarterback, and do you have a guy who can terrorize the opposing one? And now the Ravens have both. And assuming, offensive line can hold up because they're going to take some losses. Tyler Linderbaum at center, one of the best centers in the NFL, is going to get a big bag in free agency. Are they able to still build enough around him on the offense, now without a first-round pick this year, to be able to get to what the ultimate goal is? They clearly feel like that edge rusher and that defensive end position is all they were away from being successful. They hired a defensive coach with Jesse Minter. I think that's probably if that's what if they truly believe in that building, that's the only piece they are away from winning this thing, and you believe that's what you got to do, then I think that makes them the biggest winner out of these three trades.
And also, I would say even individually, for Max Crosby, the idea that he gets to go play meaningful football for the first time in his career is really cool for him because he's done really well in Las Vegas, but they haven't meant anything. He's played under 4 different head coaches: Josh McDaniel, Pete Carroll, your boy from the Giants. Who am I thinking of? He replaced Josh McDaniel. He came in after Josh McDaniel. But the greater point is Antonio
Pierce.
Yeah, Antonio Pierce,
Yeah. Oh, Giants legend. A linebacker.
Giants legend, not a coaching legend.
No.
Though he did manage to get an NFL job after being part of the crew that got Arizona State with the show
That left
calls.
Tempe, Arizona in shambles.
Burned it up and left it down. All of them got jobs somehow. Herb's still on TV. Antonio's still on TV. It's amazing.
Show cause don't work for the NFL, baby.
Act like it never happened. But for Max to be able to play some meaningful football, I think that's exciting for us as the fans because he's just been stuffed over there, and he's a really fun football player to watch. He plays the pass. He plays the run. He's a perennial top 5 defensive end in the league, and so him being able to play some football that matters is cool.
I want to say it's since 2021 or 2022, he has the most pressures of any
I would believe that,
guy in the league. Maybe not the most sacks, but the most pressures. And that's incredibly valuable. I think my second biggest winner here would be the Rams also. You know, Les Snead famously said something derogatory about draft picks and to FCC it up here. Forget them picks.
Mm-hmm.
So when it came to the fact that the Rams had 2 first-rounders, are we all foolish to have ever believed that they were going to keep both first-rounders? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. Again, of course, getting Trent McDuffie is big because I think the one thing that kept them from winning that NFC title game is not being able to stop that passing game with Seattle. Sam Darnold threw the rock all over the yard on them. They're retaining Cam Curl, though, who had a solid year. But Trent McDuffie at his best is one of the best corners in the NFL. And I don't think it's too terrible of a loss for the Chiefs because they clearly don't believe that their corners are the most important part of their defense. They traded, Javarius Snead a couple of years ago to the Tennessee Titans. They traded now Trent McDuffie. I feel like Steve Spagnuolo is probably in a position where he thinks he can just plug and play a lot of different dudes at corner. And if he's got pass rush and run stopping abilities, he's good enough at disguising coverages to be able to dupe some offenses that maybe you can save some in salary cap because the Rams are paying Trent McDuffie now a lot of money, like record-breaking dollars when it comes to the cornerback position. It's one of those, I kind of like it for both teams. Like I can kind of see it, but I think the Rams are definitely the bigger winner here because they clearly in a championship window, that could be one that takes them over the top too.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You look at 2 teams that are in that window. It's very interesting to see what their different strategies are. Not trade news, but Travis Kelce also decided to come back again.
Which it's not clear if he's playing in Kansas City.
Which I'm sure the Chiefs are like, all right, man.
Okay. You're sure? You're getting married soon, buddy, to somebody pretty popular. You could live a pretty good life, elsewhere without football. And then lastly, I think the winner of the DJ Moore trade was definitely the Bears. I like DJ Moore. He had over 600 yards last year, and the thing I liked about the Bears the most was that they had so many guys with over 600 yards receiving. True balance in an offense. But they still have Roma Dunze on a rookie deal, Luther Burden on a rookie deal, Colston Loveland on a rookie deal, that if they can relieve themselves of some salary cap burden, then you use that second rounder to take another wide receiver if you want or address another position in need. Second rounders are still really valuable. I actually really like that for the Bears. And for the Bills, it's like you need a number 1 receiver badly. I don't know if DJ Moore is making me really, if that's taking them over the top for me. I think it's a plus, and you got better, but how much better did you get? That one's still TBD for me. But coming up next, though, last week we talked about the Sun Belt's ridiculous bracket. Well, somebody might do the most ridiculous thing in that bracket, and we'll tell you who it is coming up next. So last week, during the morning meeting, I discussed the monstrosity that is the Sun Belt Conference Tournament bracket. More of a ladder, I guess, than a bracket.
I like it.
The tournament has 2 games every day, and if you are the first and second seed of the of this tournament, you don't have to play for the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days of the tournament, and you only have to win 2 to get in. Meaning, if you are seeds 11 through 14, you essentially have to win 7 games in 6 days. 7 games in 7 days to win the conference tournament. But something is happening in the Sun Belt. The championship is tonight. Now, 1 seed Troy took care of business in their first game in the semifinals against Southern Miss, but they'll be taking on 10-seeded Georgia Southern. Now, here's how wild that run is. They had to wait the winner between Louisiana Monroe and Old Dominion, who played on March 3rd. So then on March 4th, Georgia Southern beats Old Dominion. On March 5th, they beat Arkansas State, the 7th seed. So that's 2 wins. On March 6th, they beat South Alabama, the 6th seed. On March 7th, they beat Coastal Carolina, the 3 seed. On March 8th, yesterday, they beat Marshall, the 2 seed. They have won 5 games in 5 days. And if they beat Troy tonight, that is 6 wins in 6 days to make the NCAA tournament.
I imagine that since they're the 10th seed, that they haven't won 5 games in a row at any point this year.
That's a really good question. And like the exception of maybe early non-conference play.
Maybe early non-con. Maybe.
We're going to take a look right now. They won 3 games in a row at the beginning of the year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row between November 29th to January 3rd, with a good chunk of those being conference games. Then they lost to South Alabama, beat Old Dominion, lost 3 straight, got a win against ULM, lost 3 straight, got a win against Marshall, lost 3 straight, got a win against Marshall. They've actually beaten Marshall 3 times this season and now have won 5 games in 5 days.
You want to see them finish it?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. It's been forever since they made the NCAA tournament, too. Like, it has been a long, long time for Georgia Southern to make the NCAA tournament. I can't remember exactly how long it is. But they are an incredible story, because how tired do your legs have to be after playing 5 straight games in 5 days, and then you're going into a 6th against the team that won the conference regular season?
Too far to turn back now, though, man. We can't.
Didn't go this far to come this far.
That's correct. We are here. They got to go back. They got to go ahead and win it. I do like this, though, because I feel like you earn your seed. You should have to earn your way through the tournament. And if you are able to, more props to you. Nobody can say it was a fluke.
No.
Nobody can say it means you went out there and you did it on the court.
Especially if you're a lower seed, you put yourself in that position because of how you played in the regular season. But you really earn it if you go through that gauntlet. And they will have to go through, to beat seeds 3, 2, and 1 in the last 3 of those games.
And also eliminates the random bracket magic that we talked about. Like, it eliminates that. It just builds in more contingencies so that the team that finalizes does deserve to be there.
And the second leading scorer on this team, Tavares Webb, but he goes by Spud.
Is he a little fella?
He's 6'4".
No.
I don't think you can go by Spud at 6'4". If you're over 6 feet, I don't think you can go by Spud.
Did he hit a growth spurt or something? Maybe they were just calling him. Okay, I feel like I know how this turned out. Like, his parents was hoopers or hoop fans, and they just want to call him Spud when he was a baby. But then all of a sudden, this kid just kept getting taller and taller and taller.
Once you hit the 6 foot mark, you kind of have to kill the Spud nickname.
Yeah, do you move up to like Chippy?
Chippy, yeah. Potato chip.
Fry Guy.
Ooh, Fry Guy's good. Fry Guy Webb.
Long.
Yeah. See, that makes more sense. Or if you are
Spider.
Oh, Spider Webb. Oh, that's good.
That's good.
On defense, maybe.
Oh. See, but Spud is
That was a dog in the 80s.
That's true. Also Spud McKenzie, that works too. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be 5'10" or shorter.
Right.
You got to have a game that goes along with that.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of crazy things about this Georgia Southern story. and so much of it that's so quintessential college basketball. But the most quintessential college basketball thing about this league is the fact that going into the last weekend of the regular season, 7 teams were tied for first. Troy ended up winning their last game. A lot of other things happened. Troy ends up winning the regular season, and 6 teams were tied for second. Tiebreakers kind of seeded out the rest of the tournament. Those 6 teams that were tied for second place are 0-6 in this tournament.
Beat each other up?
Certainly. Like if you look at the Sun Belt Conference standings this year, it's hilarious. Troy, 12-6, Arkansas State, Appalachian State, Marshall, South Alabama, Texas State, Coastal, all 11-7. Then 2 games behind are James Madison, Southern Miss. 3 games behind that cluster is Georgia Southern. And then you get into a bunch of 7-11s, and then ULM was 1-17. They were the punching bag.
Usually the Fun Belt is reserved for football, but I think it's apropos for basketball.
I think it's turned into the funnest belt, right? If Georgia Southern wins tonight, then men's basketball is the funnest of belts. Hour number 2 is in the books. The early game, third and long hour coming up next. We will revisit the championship game from the SEC yesterday in Greenville next. Love telling you about my friends over at Pro Swing. It's a great time over there to be able to take advantage of those Golf Zone simulators, be able to play at over 300 plus courses from around the world, including my favorite golf course, which is always at St. Andrews. When there's a specific course or a specific tournament that is played every single year, whenever it's played at that course, it's my favorite. But 803-592-3916 is the number to call for more information if you do want to play at that course over at Pro Swing. There's a lot of different perks, too. You can get a free 30-minute swing evaluation. You can get lesson packages that are available from beginners to scratch golfers, adults, or even kids who are trying to get into the game and starting to improve on their golf game. There are lesson packages available from them. They use the On-Form coaching app during all swing evaluations and learn everything that you need to about your swing while also having a good time and enjoying those Golf Zone simulators at either the Forest Acres or Chapin locations. Or go to ProSwingColumbia.com for more info.
I-20 westbound at Clemson Road, still a work in progress. Also I-26 eastbound just after exit 91. I-26 eastbound before approaching St. Andrews Road, which is exit 106. Also have an accident, I-26 westbound at exit 119, but that has traffic backed up about 10 miles. So if you are making your way from Charleston, Orangeburg into Columbia, slow going there. Like I said, a 10-mile backup on I-26 westbound. And then also an accident, Polo Road between Mallet Hill Road and Two Notch Road. Looking for a high today of 82. Some morning showers tomorrow, 85. Right now, it is 60 on 107.5 The Game.
The early game, third and long hour, starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She is Jen Jensen, our man Randy Young, in the video production room here at Studio 803, where we do all the final hours of our shows here on the early game. And today, the big story in Gamecock sports, Texas getting out to a 14-0 run to start the SEC Tournament championship game. South Carolina never gains the lead at any point in the game, got as close as 9 late in the first half, but found themselves down double digits for a majority of all of half number 2.
Yeah, and every time we attempted to get back into the game or we were trying to run them down, Texas would have an answer for it, whether it was a big 2 or a 3 or just a stifling defensive possession. They never could quite get on the run that you needed. And you can't spot a great team 14 points early in the game because it's just going to be that much more difficult. And to Texas's credit, they played with composure throughout the game. So no shame, obviously, in losing to another great team, another team who's going to be a number 1 seed. But you always want another trophy. You always want another title. So we'll see where they go from here.
I think the starting point of the game obviously becomes the big story, because Texas coming out 14-0 and kind of shell-shocking you early on was really the separator. Because, from that point on, it was still a one-possession game. If we didn't count, that first quarter, you still play a one-possession game for the last 3. But when you spot a really good team like Texas, an elite team like Texas, again, they are number 1 seed. They're going to be number 1 seed in this NCAA tournament for a reason. Spotting them 14 points is an absolute killer. And this is where you get into one of my favorite things of basketball discourse, is when you are giving up a run like that, when do you call the timeout and when do you not? There are 2 different schools of thought there. Some coaches are a little more quicker on the trigger with calling timeouts. But one of my favorite parts about Phil Jackson's book, The Last Season, is he talked about his philosophy with that. He goes, I hate calling timeouts in situations. I want them to be able to play through it and figure it out. And I want to save my timeouts for different types of, strategy and certain adjustments that have to be made, or if I feel like we're getting tired, I save them for other things. But when it comes to stopping a run, he doesn't like using timeouts to stop those runs. And a lot of discussion of whether or not Don should have taken timeout when it got to about 8-0 or 10-0. I think it got to the point where it got maybe 2-10. I'm like, maybe it would help, I guess, to call a timeout. But Dawn's got a lot of trust in her team, and she talked about that after the game too. Jen, this is going to be cut number 7, where Dawn in the post game was talking about seeing her team get down 14-0 in an SEC tournament championship game, and what her thought process was when it came to taking a timeout or not taking a timeout to try to stop that bleeding.
No. If I did, I would have called the timeout. Just let our players play through it a little bit. Didn't. I don't usually do it. See if we could gather ourselves and just make a play on both sides of the basketball. We couldn't do it.
And I think from a philosophy standpoint, I probably fall the same way there, even though I wouldn't fault anybody for critiquing the decision not to call a timeout. I can't fault you for believing that, but that is just one of those basketball things that I always find really fascinating, is how you handle something like that early in the game.
So if you do call a timeout, let's say if you do call a timeout at 10, what is addressed in that timeout? Is this a strategical timeout? Is this a get your head out of your
rear end
timeout? Like what is the tone and tenor of that timeout if it's called?
Probably take a 30-second timeout, and 15 seconds are spent. Hey, wake up! The game has started.
And
I know daylight savings just happened. We sprung forward, but the game is going right now. And then maybe address something like the full court press, right? Because that gave them a ton of trouble. Rory Harmon having full court ball pressure, 94 feet, is exhausting. And say, hey, they're going to do that all day. Let's get used to it. Here's how we're going to address that. And then have some type of schematic thing like, hey, we're going to set a screen to free up Raven. Let's just inbound the ball and get it past half court. Let's get into our half court sets.
And this is why coaching is such a organic thing that you don't have a manual to read out of, because different teams would warrant different responses in that situation. One team you might be telling them, hey, we're all right. We're going to be good. We're going to be good. Another team you might be telling them, hey, we need to get our act together. Or another team, it might be strictly strategic. Or another team, it might, who knows what the conversation is. And that's why you have to have your finger on the pulse of your team. And nobody's going to question whether or not Dawn has the finger on the pulse of her team.
Yeah,
so it's not that. It's just that 14 points is significant.
Yeah.
If let's say if he was even playing football, it's like 14-0. Okay, that's 2 scores. All right. We're starting to feel a little squirmy here. You start, especially if it happens that quickly. But as I said, every sport has to be played to its final score anyway. And if you think your team is a good team, you're not necessarily worried about when they scored the points, right? More so, you may be more so worried about how these things are happening, especially with the defensive moves that Texas was making. So there might be some adjustments that you probably might have tried to make as early as you could.
And that was the fun part about like this game and the matchup, even before things tipped off. Like, this was the 3rd time they played this year. They played 4 times last year. So, you've seen them 7 times in the last 2 years. There's a lot of familiar faces on both Texas and South Carolina's roster. They are so familiar with each other that scouting was going to be huge. Can you throw something that the other team hasn't seen, or do you just execute better knowing what the other team is going to do? And I think from that standpoint, what really impressed me about Texas was it felt like they were taking a test in which they were given every single answer the day before and memorized answers. When it came to South Carolina's off-ball movement, Texas took it away. They top locked Tessa. They were still in when Tessa would try to go back door. They were still jumping backdoor cuts. They're blowing up dribble handoffs. Like, nothing was easy for South Carolina in that first quarter. Absolutely nothing. A dribble handoff should be one of the easiest ways to get ball from one player to the other because of proximity. And even they were blowing those up and getting a hand on it, right? And the only way you do that is, A, if you know it's coming and you have it scouted, and you jump the person you're guarding to that dribble handoff. There are like a lot of examples like that in the first quarter where even some of the more mundane actions for South Carolina were just getting blown up. And that is, A, testament to Texas's defensive intensity, and B, how well that thing was scouted. Like, you got to give Vic Schaefer and that coaching staff their props because they really came into that game prepared to, for the player standpoint, prepared to execute that plan from the jump. South Carolina just necessarily wasn't.
Texas is our rival.
Yes, that is a rivalry.
That is a true rivalry.
Organic rivalry.
It's a true organic rivalry. We've met several times over the last year. We've won. We've lost. The games are typically close. The reason why it doesn't have the sizzle is because it's just on the court.
There's no hatred and animosity.
There's no hatred. It's just like, man, y'all good, we good. We play very tough brand of basketball against each other. But that's the rivalry right there. And if the schedule makers were smart, they might try and lean into that a little bit more because this is something that has some legs to it.
Oh, for sure. And seeing them play multiple times a year, like, while I make the joke that I'm tired of it because I have covered many now a South Carolina-Texas basketball game, at the end of the day, it's still 2 Hall of Fame coaches. It's 2 incredibly good basketball teams that are the last 2 years been the top 4 team, 2 of the top 4 teams in the country. That's it's incredible basketball, and it feels so much more unpredictable than like the LSU series. Notice I didn't say rivalry, the LSU series, because when Carolina's beaten them 19 straight times, And in some instances, sometimes they're blowouts, right? Was it 3 years ago when they played here on Super Bowl Sunday? They beat the hell out of them in that game. They blew them out last year when they came to CLA. But you've had a couple of close games, like the 2 this year, one in Baton Rouge a couple of years ago, and the SEC title game in Greenville. Even in the close games, you always feel like South Carolina is going to pull it out because they've just continued to do it. And when you beat a team 19 times, that type of mentality certainly does bleed into the very human brains of the opponent that has lost that meeting that many times in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really kind of the difference between the two. And what you saw on Sunday, too, were 2 teams that are also incredibly defensively sound. And it came down to also who's making tougher shots. South Carolina missed 8 shots at the basket in that game. Texas was hitting contested pull-up jumpers. Madison Booker was getting to her office at the elbow, running your favorite set in basketball. A lot of floppy action yesterday.
I love it.
That is what they used to get Madison Booker the ball at the elbow. Now, the elbow is her office. And the best way to get, your best player the ball at the elbow is running floppy action.
I don't even know why I like that so much. It's not as if I had a team that ran that was my. I need to figure out what my affinity is for that specific set.
Is it just the name?
I didn't know what the name was till this year. I didn't know what it was called. You just told me what it was. I was like, oh man, I love it. Floppy, I see it. I pointed out when I sent you a text whenever I said, I'm like, there it is.
You're like, are they running floppy action? I'm like, oh buddy, Texas spams it. That's like the hardest part about playing them is that like the reason that action has kind of been phased out of basketball is because most of the time that action is designed to get that best player the ball at the elbow. And a lot of basketball.
Because we don't do mid-range jumpers anymore?
We don't do mid-range jumpers as much anymore. So usually there's been some modifications. Like Rick Barnes at Tennessee used to get Dalton Connect the ball at the 3-point line. They just moved that initial screen up a little bit to get Dalton Connect the ball at the 3-point line as opposed to maybe the mid-range. And sometimes he would get the ball at the elbow. They still ran it like the old school way, like how the Pistons would do it with Rip Hamilton. But you see it a lot with this Texas team because that's Madison Booker is at her best, 15 feet away from the basket. And they will find a way to get her the ball there, and that action is just the easiest way to be able to do it. But that gives them a real offensive identity too.
And we talked about that. And one of the big things for me that stood out to me about this game is that USC has several offensive identities, and all of them are sort of coming up a little bit short. Right? They tried to do a couple of things with Medina, tried to do Joyce. Tessa wasn't necessarily hitting as well. Raven was everybody was just sort of okay, and none of the things that have worked all year really took. So it's a learning situation, and they're getting ready for the tournament moving forward.
Yeah, and then like for offensively too, I don't know how many games you're going to survive if Medina only scores 2 points, if Raven scores 9, Tessa scores 8, Tanaya scores 4. You don't get those starters in double figures. The only players in double figures for Carolina were Joyce Edwards with 13, and then Maddie McDaniel off the bench gave you 10. Maddie did give you good minutes, but you need your starting unit to be able to produce just more than that. Like before the game, if you would have told me, hey, Elijah, Maddie McDaniel's coming off the bench and giving him 10. Alicia Tornabese is going to grab 7 rebounds and score 6 points. Gotti's going to get 9 points in this game. I'm like, oh, wow, if the starters do what I think they're going to do, this is, Carolina's the one winning by 17. No, to Texas's credit, they made life really difficult for South Carolina's best players yesterday. Even for Joyce, even a lot of the shots Joyce got near the basket were all really contested. That's the strength of Texas's team. Is to be able to do that. And last thing too, when you just look at the game, you got to the free throw line significantly more than Texas did. I know a lot of people are complaining about officiating. I know bad officiating is baked into the result of every single game. But would it surprise you if I told you that South Carolina shot over twice as many free throws as Texas did? But the problem is they missed a lot of them. They were 12 of 23 from the free throw line. If you hit 19 of those, right? If you go 19 of 23, then you are within 10 points. And if you make a lot more of those shots at the basket or you get more shots at the basket, then it's a closer game. Mm-hmm. But that 14-0 run at the beginning of it, spotting a really good team, 14 points, is a killer every single time. But coming up next, it's Monday. It's 8:15, so you already know we're going to give some weekend accolades. Preston's going to give us our thorns, buds, and roses coming up next.
Pressure here for our friends at Integrated Media. Listen, it is tournament time. All the tournaments are happening. Why don't you have yourself set up for the spring with the folks from Integrated Media? What does your setup could look like? Samsung Terrace TVs that are waterproof, Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoor and outdoors so that you can have all of the tournaments going on at the same time. You have the MAC, the Big Ten, SEC, all going on, watching them on all your devices that are playing, and there won't be any lag time. So if there's a buzzer beater in real time, you can see it in real time. You don't have to be trying to catch up or buffer for anybody. The folks at Integrated Media can help you. From home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Heavy traffic between exit 102 and 106 this morning. Also, we have an accident reported Polo Road between Mallet Hill Road and Two Notch. Also, Lorick Avenue at North Main. I-26 westbound at exit 119, the left lane is blocked, and that does have traffic backed up several miles, so be mindful of that. I-26 eastbound approaching St. Andrews Road. Obviously, that is slow due to an accident at that area. And Atlas Road near Shop Road, also a report of an accident. 82 today, 85 tomorrow. A couple morning showers are possible. 87 on Wednesday. Cools down a little bit Thursday. 70 for the high, but right now, 59.
start hearing some ads at the NCAA tournament whenever you're watching him on CBS, where they're going to promote an event after the college basketball tournament that is a tradition unlike any other. Now, they make a point, but it is not true, because the real tradition unlike any other is that on 8/15 every day, or every Monday, we give out T's, B's, and R's. Hit it, Jen.
It's time for Thorns, Buds, and Roses with Preston Thorne on the early game. 107.5 The Game.
All right, Elijah, we got not as many thorns this weekend, mostly buds and mostly roses.
Oh, good.
But there was one thorn that got to me. Is this, a lot of the important people decided to get into a big room and start discussing college sports. The president commissioned a group of folks, Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, speaking on the morality of college sports, Urban Meyer.
The poster boy, yeah. I mean, you know what? I can't think of a better person.
They brought all of these people in here to speak about college sports and speak about some of the ongoing challenges that we all understand are inherent in the industry. The only problem is they left out one small group of people that might have something to add to the conversation. Would you think who that group of people that they left out?
Would that be the workforce?
It would be the players in this. It would be the athletes.
The participants.
So they were talking about the athletes and not talking to the athletes or getting any insight from the athletes. Now, obviously, nobody expects anything to be done, because a rule of thumb that I've generally found in my life, bigger the meeting, less things getting done. Things get done in small rooms with a few people. They don't get done in the rooms with a lot of people. So my only thing was, and I'm all for the discussion, I'm all for the conversation, though obviously we do have much more important things to be talking about, is that if we're going to have this conversation about college sports, let's involve some of the people who are either actively participant or people who are recently participated. I wouldn't even involve somebody like myself who's been participated 25 years ago, because this is a new system. You need people who have gone through this system that could at least explain these things to me. I need explanation, because I'm not even quite sure how all of this works. So I just think that needs to be said. That being said, buds, replanting. Sometimes, you pick a plant up and you repot it, and then it starts growing again. Well, we tried to do that in this state with the basketball state championships. We tried to have it at another site, but we finally repotted it back at the CLA, and I'm here to tell you it's thriving.
Good reviews. I got really good reviews on it.
Great weekend of basketball in the state capital, in the central part of the state, where you have the capacity to hold these crowds. The crowds deserve to come to a cool place and play. The players get a chance to play on an awesome court. I just think it's always cool to have the state championship game at the state's flagship institution. So great job of getting that done. Hopefully that is something that we can continue. Finally, we have roses. I got a couple of sets of roses to give out here. First off, we need 21 roses for Lou Holtz, who snapped the 21-game losing streak that the university was on. He was also part of 11 of those games in his first season, going 11, but snapped the 21-game losing streak. Obviously, we'll be continuing to honor his life, but Lou Holtz was obviously a huge part of the story around Carolina athletics, even though nationally you'll see more of the Notre Dame stuff, which makes a lot of sense, but he did have a very significant impact on South Carolina sports. Also, 39 roses. One of my high school coaches passed away, and we had his we had his funeral this weekend. Coach Fred Edwards down in Somerville. 39 roses for the amount of years he coached at Somerville High School.
Wow.
39 years as an assistant coach. Obviously coaching with and under the great Bob McKissick. And then we have another set of roses on another local coaching legend, Bob Hanna, the great Bob Hanna from Irmo, who passed away this weekend, another local legend. And just significantly showing how important coaches are in communities, how important coaches are in people's lives. It was really awesome. We went to Coach Edwards' funeral to see some of my former teammates, see some of the folks that were impacted by his life, and just understanding the impact that coaches can have. So Coach Holtz, Coach Edwards, and Coach Hanna, many roses to you and all the coaches in our community. Elijah, those are our thorns, buds, and roses.
I love that. I think that illustrates kind of just like the responsibility that coaches have. It's not just trying to win basketball games, win football games, whatever. Like coaching at a place for 39 years, you're coaching generations.
100%.
You're coaching your first group of kids, and then you might be coaching their kids.
There's no doubt. Absolutely.
And maybe coaching their
3 generations of kids. To be very honest, if you think you're in a spot for 39 years, there is absolute chance, especially in places like Somerville, where you would coach 2 to 3 generations of kids. And there's something to be said to be like, oh, you're going to play for Coach Edwards. I know you're in good hands.
Yeah, and that you can be trusted with those kids and be trusted.
And again, Bob Hanna, same way over here in the Irmo community. And so, yeah, those people have a lot of influence on all of our athletes, all of our students across the nation. And so just want to make sure we give them a big shout out today.
Yeah, certainly deserved. Certainly deserved. And the buds of replanting like that a lot too, because a lot of the people that cover high school sports that I really highly value their opinion, your Lou Bajaks or Chris Deerings, a lot of people around here do incredible work covering high school sports. We're all saying how great of an environment it was and how great it was to have that back. And I like it mostly just for the kids' sake too. I mean, how many of the kids that played on the floor this weekend over at CLA will get to play on an SEC basketball floor in their career?
Very few.
Yeah, like very few. They will all go pro one day in something other than sports, right? That's usually how that goes at the high school level. That is such a cool thing to get to do, especially, if you're a senior and it's your last game. You get to play your last high school basketball game at the University of South Carolina and getting to put a bow on it that way, win or lose, That's a really cool way to get to end. Like, no disrespect to anywhere else that they've played it or any of the other fine, like, Division II institutions in the state or Division III. But to have it at a place like that, in an arena that size, to get to do it at a place where those kids probably have watched or seen it on TV so many times or been to games and get to actually participate on that floor is a massive deal.
Yeah, there's a gravity to having it in those specific places because everybody gets to travel. More people are more likely to go to the games. People want to show up from the towns. You have the side set up. Everybody's really, really cheering. To be honest, it's a lot of life in that building for sure.
Yeah, some thrilling finishes too.
Yeah. Christchurch.
The Christchurch game, my goodness.
That's the one.
That corner 3 in the last seconds, yeah, shout out to them. Yeah, maybe get them a shout out on winners later on in the show. But coming up next, that Christchurch buzzer beater wasn't the only buzzer beater that made noise in the state of South Carolina, because maybe the biggest shot of the weekend came from the men's team, and we'll discuss that and their SEC tournament draw coming up next here in the early game. It's certainly a crazy month, a whole lot going on here in the month of March. So a lot of things can pile up. A lot of things can be grabbing your attention. But if there's one negative that's grabbing your attention, being tax issues, whether it's personal income tax issues or business tax issues, I have a solution for you. I would not be talking about this if I didn't have a solution that I could offer. Call 803-771-9800 because that is the phone number for my friends over at the Ecton Law Firm. John Ecton and his team at the Ecton Law Firm firmly understand the challenges you or your business can face and the tax issues that you may face. And that's why that team is perfectly qualified to be able to offer you maybe the most important thing in life, which is peace of mind. And this is certainly the season to try to escape that pesky IRS maze, whether it is with your business or your personal income taxes. Again, 803-771-9800 or visit them at ectonlawfirm.com. That's ECTONlawfirm.com.
Polo Road between Mallet Hill Road and Two Notch Road, an accident there. Also, Lorick Avenue at North Main in downtown Columbia. I-26 eastbound approaching St. Andrews Road. There's an accident there. The left lane currently closed due to some road construction. I-26 westbound, exit 119. And Atlas Road at Shop Road, also an accident. 82 is the high we're looking for today. 85 tomorrow. Could see a morning shower. Then on Wednesday, 87 before we get a little cooling trend. It'll be 70 on Thursday. But cloudy right now. It's 59 on 107.5 The Game.
So, with the game tied at 61 apiece in Oxford, Mississippi, in a game between two teams at the bottom of the SEC standings, which actually ended up having some real implications to it in terms of where they're seated for the SEC tournament, Michie Johnson grabbed the inbounds pass, and he pulled up from 40 feet. And, Jen, we'll get cut number 6 here if we can, because this is how it sounded when he let the ball in the air.
Get it in, and here comes Meach into the front court. Pulls up, lets a long three go, and buries it. 7/10 of a second left. Michie Johnson from 30 feet. Ole Miss will inbound to Dia. He lets it go with the buzzer, and it's off the top of the backboard. And you can put Spurs on this one. Michie Johnson with a three-pointer in the final second of play. Wins it for the Gamecocks against Ole Miss, and Carolina will wrap up the regular season with its 4th SEC win of the season.
I'm as excited for Derek Scott as I am for Michie Johnson because he got to call a thriller.
Good for Derek.
That's awesome. Yes.
Because, again,
Yes.
I say it all the time. I could have given him roses again. That man is a consummate professional. He does his job. He keeps you engaged, and there has not been a lot to be engaged with. Also, I love how he said Meach for 3 for Michie from deep, because he said that a bunch of times.
Yep.
And so Michie hitting a 30-footer is not necessary. Let's put it like this. He didn't shoot that shot just because it was a buzzer beater.
Oh.
Michie will shoot that shot anytime.
He gets to dribble into a 30-footer. Yeah, he loves it. He lives for it.
Nobody's more prepared for that moment than Michie.
On that entire floor, either team, no one is more prepared to be able to shoot that shot than Michie.
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
And he gets one in a time like that. He's hit some big threes from deep in his career. I remember the one in 2 years ago during the tournament run year where they're playing Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And Kentucky was a top 10 team. They came here. That was the court storming game where he hits one from like the O on Colonial Life Arena, it felt like. Mm-hmm. And that was like the dagger. And that was one of the coolest shots of the season that year. Yeah, you finished 4-14 in SEC play. Not ideal.
But you said 4-14, and technically...
Oh, this is where I get to have fun playing semantics, Preston Thorne. What was South Carolina picked at the beginning of the season?
16th.
Where did they finish?
14th.
Technically speaking, Preston Thorne, this men's basketball team surpassed preseason expectations. It may not feel like it, but technically, just playing the semantics game here, they did it. They did it. They're the 14th seed. Now, you're going to need some caffeine this week on Wednesday night. It's an approximate 9:30 tip. Oof. Now, these things never start on time.
Yeah.
You never know. It's the technical listing is 25 minutes after game 3.
You say it's like all of these things. You say they never start on time, but I guarantee you it won't be early.
Yes, that's one thing you can bank on.
It won't be before 9:30. It's not like we got to get there because they might start early. They're not going to start early.
No. Oh, they're in the SEC tournament. I've covered too many of these things, buddy. Covered way too many of these things. I remember last year Kentucky and Oklahoma played in I think it was 2 overtimes, and it was the last game of the night, and that thing went into well past midnight Central Time. That game was late, brother. That was a late game. I know we are hosting the early game. That was the late game, capital L, capital G. And there is going to be an element of being at the mercy of the game before you, and trying to pull up the full bracket right now. The game before you is hopefully, so here we go. Here's the bracket. It takes way too long to find that. Is going to be Ole Miss and Texas. Don't think that one should go to overtime. I think Texas should be able to handle them, but Texas hasn't handled business a lot of times this year. So if that one goes to overtime, then, buddy, I hope you're well caffeinated. Hope you got that Keurig or whatever coffee making machine you have ready to roll. I'll be taking advantage of the free coffee with you, Rita. I will say. But for this team too, what this presents, because if they lost that game, or if LSU ended up beating Texas A&M, which, speaking of overtimes, that game went to 3 of them, and if LSU were to have won that game, South Carolina would have been the 16th seed. They would have faced off against number 9 Kentucky. Do you feel better about the draw of getting 11 seed Oklahoma compared to 9 seed Kentucky?
Well, yes, we beat Oklahoma.
Yes.
We did beat Oklahoma, and we had Kentucky kind of play Kentucky tight. So it's okay with that. But give me Oklahoma, and more so for what the reasons that Rocky said earlier. Like the idea that you're going into the tournament, coming off of a win. You haven't had a bunch of wins. You haven't had a lot of success, but now you do. You might go into the tournament, see Oklahoma on the bracket, and say, "Oh, okay, huh, fellas, what you think?" We were thinking about we were thinking about going home, but maybe be all right if we stayed a game or two.
Yeah.
And see what ends up happening. So I do think you obviously want to go into the tournament with some forward momentum, and they have it.
And especially considering too, like Kentucky's not been very good this year. They paid $22.5 million on that roster. They paid $22.5 million for average. But however, like I think there is more talent on that Kentucky team than Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma's been way more, I don't want to say disappointing. They've been worse. Like Oklahoma's been straight up bad at times this year. That's a game that's so winnable. And if you win that game, you get Texas A&M. And now, does Texas A&M style of play give you a lot of trouble? Absolutely. Like buckyball is tough to play against, but they're not playing their best basketball right now. And a team like LSU taking them to 3 overtimes tells me that you get them on a neutral site. Who knows? Maybe you take 2. And if this team ends up playing on the Friday of the SEC tournament, buddy, I'm not saying everything's all well and good. You don't want to be in this position to begin with, but you want to talk about at least ending the season on a good note. Like making a mini run in this tournament is at least good for the psyche.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, of course.
And last year, you were in a somewhat similar position, not with the seeding, but they were the 16th seed last year, but they played an Arkansas team who just a week before that, they throttled at CLA. Almost won that game. Would we have felt differently about that game if they pulled it out in the SEC tournament and at least played a different day? I don't know. Maybe. But at least this provides you an opportunity to play against a team that you can beat, that you match up relatively well against. And if you're able to pull that win out, then you're feeling at least better about yourself. At this point, like you're playing for psyche and morale, especially for a lot of guys that aren't going to be playing college basketball again.
I'm not going to be here.
I'm out of eligibility. I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be here at all. I don't know why I broke into Louis Armstrong instead of Magic Johnson. I'm not going to lie, though. Out of all the impersonations that I could do, Louis Armstrong may be one of my best ones.
A Louis Armstrong impersonation. That is a deep cut.
It is. Especially since I'm a little under the weather right now with allergies, it's enhanced. It's like Barry Bonds. He was already a Hall of Fame player if he never took steroids. And then he clearly got juiced up and became like the best of all time. With 1.5, blockages of my nostrils right now, I can probably pull that off a little bit better.
Is it ever requested? How do you, is this something you just have to walk around with the burden of knowing that you have a great Louis Armstrong impression and nobody gets to hear it?
See, I have to really read the room when it comes to that. Like all good impersonations. You got to read the room, because if the vibe in the room is down and I go in there
with Kermit
like this, then I'm going to tick a lot of people off. It will go from fun party trick to get the hell out of here in record time. The Kermit one too. The Kermit one especially.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't help that I have a Kermit puppet at home. I got to really read the room at home, right? If I break out the Kermit puppet and the impersonation and it's not been a good day. for poor Mira, I'm going to make a bad day worse. I can't give a lot of good life advice. God bless Ryan Rosillo for trying to do that on his pod.
Oh, man.
But I can tell you, if you have a good impersonation, time and place, okay? Time and place, always be able to read the room like a book.
Read the room. That's a good one.
And you should be able to, you can have a high success rate. My Louis Armstrong impersonation winner, again, time and place. Read the room, read the vibes, but we'll give you our winners for today's show brought to you by the Golden Spur, and we'll do that next.
Winners.
For today's show, as always, brought to you by the Golden Spur. And I think my first winner of the weekend is the Broom. Not only did the baseball team sweep Princeton this weekend, which is what we prescribed, they swept the week. You got the win against USC Upstate. You got the win against Charleston Southern. If you're looking for anything to be optimistic about, is that you had 5 games in which you're expected to take care of business. You haven't done that this year in those series or some of those midweeks. You took care of business today. And I know we only got to do one segment on it, but I wanted to bring that one back, that Brooms are winners, because Brooms were active at Founders Park this weekend.
And it's what we prescribed.
That's right.
It's the thing that we needed from them. I'm going to give my winner to somebody who's a winner for losing, and that would be Boosie Badass.
Yes.
Who made a very strong Twitter comment. He said, I'm tired of losing to South Carolina. Oh, man.
Come on, man. M-A-N-E.
Boosie's mostly a winner because he performs in your city.
Yes.
Meaning Sumter, Darlington, Florence, North Augusta, anywhere where there's a bar or grill or somewhere, that sort of venue where Boosie can get on stage and perform. He's made a lifetime of performing in only small SEC towns, and for that, Boosie is a winner.
I want to try to pull up what his tour looks
His
like.
current tour schedule?
His current tour schedule, assuming that he is, okay, we got it pulled up here. Okay, this is on SeatGeek. Baton Rouge,
Yep.
Little Rock, Birmingham, Louisville,
Yep.
Lafayette,
Yep.
Hampton.
Yep.
And I think that's actually the end of it. Like, that's technically the end of the tour. I wish I could get the full schedule here. Those are just like the upcoming ones.
Oh, it's ongoing.
But it's always ongoing.
And again, he will be back in whatever your small municipality is to rock the crowd. SEC legend, but from Baton Rouge, and is tired of losing to the Gamecocks.
And Darius Rucker says, 19 in a row is pretty tough. So winner also, celebrity sports crossovers, music and sports crossovers specifically. Always a winner. Also winner, ladder brackets. I'm so obsessed with the Georgia Southern story right now, of a 10 seed that has won 5 games in 5 days to get them 40 minutes away from punching their ticket to the NCAA tournament and achieving the ultimate goal that every school at that level sets at the beginning of the season. They had to do it by winning 5 games in 5 days, and if they win tonight against Troy, they'll have beaten the number 1 seed, the 2 seed, the 3, and then countless others before then. But beating the top 3 seeds and having to win 6 games in 6 days, they make the NCAA tournament, Preston. That's the coolest story in this thing. No matter what happens after that, like that's what this whole thing's about.
Yeah, the idea, and I said, I'm a proponent of it. I really haven't even heard of it till this year, and you told me how it works. I'm like, yeah, if you are lower seeded, you should have to win more games to get to the end, and Georgia Southern might actually do it.
Because we joked when we read off just the bracket, because the bracket format got me so tickled. Like, the West Coast Conference has done this before, and usually it's Gonzaga or St. Mary's that wins it, and they usually play just 2 games at the the neutral site, and that's a wrap. But this one's funnier because the conference is so much bigger, so the bracket format itself looks goofier. Like, it is a very long bracket. And the fact that we joked, it'd be really funny to see one team win 7 games in 7 days to actually win this thing. We won't get 7 in 7, but we can get a 6 in 6 if Georgia Southern pulls it off tonight.
I can't let it go. I have to go back to Boosie because I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to mention it. But anytime you have an iconic haircut named after you, when you have the Boosie fade, which is a very specific style haircut that is unique to this one person, you're a winner.
That is influence.
That is the influence that Boosie has. A specific haircut that can only be that you see that cut, you're like, oh yeah, that's Boosie.
I did find an extra tour date. He'll take a break from May to November, but then he'll start back off in Miami.
Okay, all right.
So
it's a little bit bigger. I imagine he's not necessarily. He's probably in like Fort Lauderdale.
Right. It's not gonna be at Hard Rock.
No,
right?
He's not at Hard Rock.
No, he's not playing that one right there. Another winner, buzzer beaters.
Yes,
we're in peak buzzer beater season, and if you watched Navy and Boston U, Boston U hit about a 40-footer at the buzzer, or about more like a 35-footer.
I did see that one.
To beat one-seeded Navy in that conference tournament.
Also, the real fun buzzer beater where it's the buzzer beater after you thought they had already hit the buzzer beater.
Yes, because Navy scored.
Right, and you're like, oh, that's it.
Yep.
And then the other team comes back.
Ultimate heartbreak. Worst way to lose a game. Have done that before. I can tell you, it sucks.
That's my favorite one.
Being on the wrong end of it sucks. To be on the emotional swing of it happening to you to win is an undefeated feeling.
That's like the Christchurch one.
That's exactly how the Christchurch one went. Buried it in the corner, and then of course with buzzer beaters too. The Michi Johnson one at the buzzer on a tie game to be able to end their regular season, which not the greatest regular season, was a plus.
Yeah.
Can I offer one more winner?
Yes, absolutely.
Elijah's birthday yesterday.
Oh,
Congratulations. Happy birthday a day late.
Thank you, Jed.
Happy birthday.
Just want to get that thrown in there.
Celebrate in style by covering a conference championship game and then hauling it back to Columbia to go get a fat plate of nachos and margaritas, and guess what? We got it.
Nice.
That's a good day right there.
It hit different. It was a good birthday. I'll take it.
Boosie would say you could get ratchet for your birthday. Could wipe you down for your birthday. Set it off for your birthday. These are all things that Boosie has in his catalog that he could offer for you.
In my early 20s, when I wouldn't have to get up this early every day. Would have done it. Would have absolutely done it. Would have had a little bit more of a headache today.
Yeah.
Normally would have.
Not a winner. Daylight savings or whatever this is. Spring ahead.
God,
not a winner.
Sprung forward. He lost. Yeah.
Not a winner.
Not winners by losing in that one. Lost an hour. Buddy, that 3:50 alarm on Sunday morning was brutal. Oh, that's not a winner. But Tyler Head and Jack Felcher in the extra point, they are winners. And they're next.